I was slow to the advice, if you will. I'm sure very frustrating to him. And I had a baby and I feel like my daughter probably that makes me cry too. I feel like she has really struggled throughout life because I was not in great health when was pregnant with her, carrying her and conceived her. And it was a really difficult birth. And she ended up in the NICU and I ended up in surgery. And it's been a hard run for us. She is almost 24 and she is thriving. So we did it, girl. We did it. Um, I was really sick though. And I was gaslit significantly. I was in the medical system as a patient since I was a baby. I was very ill as a child, very, very ill. So I spent my entire life sick. So you can imagine when 2020 rolled around, and especially 2021, when things were going down, um, I could just see the gaslighting happening and I wasn't having it. I just wasn't having it. Like when you have somebody who's been abused by the medical system, and let's throw in that I was sexually assaulted by my doctor when I was 18, 17, actually, repeatedly, and his assistants, or I guess we could call them his residents. I think he's dead now. He was an old man then. So otherwise I would go back and find him. So, a lot of trauma PTSD. And when 2021 specifically and what was happening then was happening, I was like, yeah, no, no, nobody's going to tell me what to do with this vessel that I've worked so hard to rebuild. So what you see here is the rebuild. It truly is the rebuild. And it took me a long time. And I'm not perfect by any means. And I still have issues. And this is one of the reasons I've been so passionate about GLP-1 agonists lately, because sometimes we don't all get through the gauntlet in one piece. Sometimes some of us go through a lot. And let's throw in some severe adverse childhood events, some significant abuse by a family member growing up. It leads to chronic pain. It leads to autoimmune disease. We know that adverse childhood events leads to chronic pain. Like you're pretty much guaranteed. If you had enough adverse childhood events, you will deal with chronic pain in your life. It reprograms your brain, and your response to things. And we know what sets off autoimmune disease. It's not just the food. We want to focus so much on the food. I've also been living with severe lack of sunlight since I was 14 and moved here to Oregon. So we get a few months of sunlight, but the severe lack of sunlight I know is impacting me in such a absolutely negative way. It's just not conducive to good health and longevity, especially for an autoimmune person. It was no wonder to me that every summer, all of my autoimmune symptoms would go away. My pain would go away and my face would literally change. My entire face, I don't want to say structure, but look at me. Go look at videos of me in the summer and look at videos of me in the winter. I look like a different person. And GLP-1 agonists have given me a leg up. And just, microdoses, which I talk about at length inside my new program, which you guys can get on the wait list for. I'll put the link in the show notes for you to get into the free mini course. And then that'll drop you into the wait list for the big course when it comes out again. We've got 100 people in there we're going through right now, and it's awesome. So anyway, all that to say, I have been through it. And I had chronic mold exposure in multiple houses that I was living in, apartments as well. I was sprayed with malathion at length when I was in second grade as a child. A lot of folks, I can't find much on it, but when I go digging, I have found that a lot of thyroid cancer came out of that time period from that area, Northern California. They were spraying for the fruit flies in the early 80s. I remember that the dogs would die. The dogs and cats would die if you left their water and food out. And all the bugs died in my yard. I mean, can you imagine what that did to the ecosystem? All the bugs died. And I've been through it. And then I, add to it, I poisoned myself with cigarettes and bad food. I ate terribly for a long time. Any of you feeling guilt for being addicted to garbage food, trust me, I've been there. You can overcome it. It just takes a lot of discipline. And you just really have to want to live more than you want to eat poison. I don't know how else to say it. I have programmed myself to walk into Starbucks. Well, I won't go into Starbucks anymore, but if I do, I go in and I just look at the counter, or the case of sweets, and I'm like, oh, that's poison. Like I've programmed that into my brain. And it's true, it is. And you can't argue with me over that because it is. It's garbage. Pretty much everything in there is garbage. So I overcame all of this. And through the process, I was studying chronic disease and illness through my medical training. And I was going to all the conferences and doing all the extra, curricular CEUs, conferences. Then there was webinars, and then there, on and on. And I have studied all of this. And I will tell you something. A lot of the doctors treating chronic illness have chronic illness themselves. That's how we got here, right? But I never really got into treating chronic illness because I didn't want to be surrounded by chronically ill people because I was trying to get over it myself. And I realized, one of the reasons I left practice was because it didn't matter what I tried to do. I still ended up with chronically ill people in my clinic. And I particularly specialized in pain, right? I was doing predominantly regenerative injection therapies for musculoskeletal conditions like prolotherapy, PRP, stem cells. And that was predominantly what I was doing all day, but I still had to help folks with all the other stuff that was going on that was driving their pain, right? And dealing with chronic pain as someone who lives in chronic pain, that's often how my issues present themselves. Chronic pain, remarkable chronic pain that I don't know if many humans could endure. It's exhausting. And I mix that up with some lingering viral effects and immunocompromised for years when I was burning the candle at both ends. Like that's one of the reasons I closed my practice as well. I was just too busy. I was traveling. I was probably on an airplane going to get on a stage at a conference like at least once or twice a month for years.